On November 17th, the grand illumination downtown drew huge crowds, good for the city, but creating a giant parking problem for those trying to get to Virginia Symphony. Getting there may not have been half the fun, but it was worth the effort. Associate conductor Benjamin Rouse led the orchestra for an interesting program unified by rhythm, two works by 20th century Spanish composers, and in the second half, Beethoven's Seventh Symphony. Joaquin Turina was a native of the city of Seville, yes, Virginia, where the famous operatic barber plied his trade. The three movements of Turina's Sinfonia Sevillana describe scenes from the city and its river using exotic Andalusian rhythms and flamenco dances. The music of the first movement was evocative of Spanish filigree with nice percussive accents. In the second movement, Amanda Armstrong, who was concertmaster for the performance, was in excellent form with a high, sweet tone. George Corbett's gorgeous English horn made listeners nostalgic for a place they'd never experienced. The final movement was very rhythmic, very Spanish, with conductor Rouse bouncing on the podium. Principal flutist Deborah Wendell-Cross was the soloist for the Fantasia para un gentil hombre, Fantasy for a Gentleman. The title may refer to the immortal guitarist Andres Segovia, for whom Joaquin Rodrigo composed the work in 1954 as a neoclassical suite with four movements based on dances by 17th century guitarist Caspar Sanz, who represented Spain's golden age. Segovia played the Fantasia at its 1958 premiere in San Francisco. When the renowned flutist James Galway asked the composer's permission to arrange the work for flute and orchestra, Rodrigo agreed, not surprisingly. Clad in a strikingly draped dark red gown, Cross displayed silvery sweetness of tone even in the highest ranges, and her lower range was clear and warm. The harmonic language of the Fantasia is utterly lovely, lush, then spare, languorously sexy, and this version is absolutely studded with difficult virtuosic displays that rippled smoothly under Cross's flying fingers. The final movement, with its dialogue between flute and orchestra, its jaunty, very Spanish alternation between 6/8 and 3/4 rhythms, and its cheerful cuckoo calls, was just terrific. The second half of the program was Beethoven's Symphony No. 7 in A major. You know it's Beethoven from the very first measures, even though it begins with a brief, fairly quiet introduction before the energy builds to its fullest. Rouse was erect and alert and athletic. Not the most fluid conducting I've ever seen, but extremely clear and engaged. His baton was whipping around in circles, but it worked. The insistent rhythms of the second movement were light and sinewy with lovely cellos and violas, unusually quiet for Beethoven, but allowing for impressively mounting intensity. You may have recognized this movement in the film The King's Speech, underscoring the new king's radio address announcing Britain's entrance into World War II. The opening of the third movement, the scherzo, was momentarily ragged but quickly came together. For its brightness and vitality, Rouse was bouncing on his toes, yet careful to draw out individual elements. The vigorous finale rose and fell back, jubilantly attacking again and again. As I was leaving, I overheard a group of gentlemen talking about the merits of various conductors whom they had heard conduct Beethoven's Seventh. One said, "Von Karajan made music. Bernstein was music." From the other side of the Footlights, I'm M.D. Ridge.